My first bold prediction, I'm going to go with Rutger McGroarty. Now, this is a multifaceted bold prediction because obviously everybody's eyes are on, will McGroarty start in the NHL? Will he start in the AHL? And that plays into my prediction here. Here's my thought process on how this year is going to go for the 20-year-old forward out of Michigan. He will begin the season in the AHL because he's waivers exempt. He will be called up by November 1st, which I know a lot of people are saying, oh, that's only half a month. That is 12 games into the season.
Yeah,
that is not a
few.
small amount of games into the season. The Penguins are going to be very busy in October, which is going to give them the opportunity to see what they have in some of these players. What do they think about Puljujarvi at the start of the season? What do they think about Puustinen at the start of the season? Do they decide to eventually move on from one of their 85,000 centers to create some roster spaces at the NHL level? But by November 1st, I think Rutger McGroarty gets the call, and I don't think he looks back. And I think he still ends up scoring 20-plus goals this season, despite missing the first dozen games of the year and playing at the AHL level. So to wrap it all into a nice, neat bow, Rutger McGroarty will score 20 goals despite beginning the year in the American Hockey League.
So I also had a Rutger McGroarty bold prediction. Mm-hmm. I'll add to it because I like where you're going with it. What I had was essentially he would start in the AHL as well, but then still, and this is the exact line I wrote down, play most of the season with Sidney Crosby.
Now, with Sidney Crosby.
With Sidney Crosby. That's kind of where I took my bold prediction. That's tough to sort of analyze what most of the season is, and that sort of situation. But whenever you start talking about his stats, I want to throw in something even more bold because it's going to be a heck of a year for rookies in the NHL. Could Rutger McGroarty become a finalist for the Calder? Barry said it. Yeah. He absolutely could. If he plays most of the season with Sidney Crosby, and even if he misses some of that time to start, there's absolutely a chance that Sid helps a lot in terms of getting to 20-plus goals, getting to 20-plus assists, maybe 30-plus assists. We'll see what the numbers look like down the line. It's going to be a tough year for rookies, for sure. I mean, looking at Matvei Michkov already leading the betting odds, I think, out of Philly. Lane Hudson in Montreal's got a big push from his teammates. Macklin Celebrini, obviously, and Will Smith, both in San Jose. If Rutger McGroarty can stand out and be a part of the reason why the Penguins find their way back into the playoffs, also in terms of Sidney Crosby pushing for an MVP, if he can help push them into the playoffs, Rutger McGroarty doing the same could be a good reason to get him in that conversation as well. So, well, we just put a lot of weight on McGroarty's shoulders, but
I think it was already there.
Yeah, there's a belief that it can happen. It's depending on where you look, he already has betting odds for being in the Calder race anyway. So it's not like it's all that out of the question, but it's something to watch for sure.
Yeah, I think 2 of the 3 finalist spots are essentially already solidified, and that's Matvei Michkov and Macklin Celebrini, and that third one is going to be a dogfight. You mentioned Will Smith, you mentioned Lane Hudson. There's also always other names that jump up. Last year it was Brock Faber out of Minnesota that came on and lit the world on fire and became a finalist for the Calder Award. So I'm not putting it out of the question. I like what I've seen from Rutger McGroarty. I think he starts in the AHL because I think that's where they want him to start. I don't think that he's struggling or anything like that. There have been people that have been talking about, oh, he just hasn't come as expected. I think he has done everything that you've expected a 20-year-old to do in his first real opportunity to make an NHL roster, because he didn't have that last year. I think everybody knew that he was going back to Michigan last year. So this is his first chance to try to crack a roster. I think he's doing a good job. I just think the situation around it is the Penguins want to see what they have in some of these players and potentially want to see what he can do and build him up from professional hockey at the AHL level before they put him into professional hockey at the NHL level. So, we're both looking at Rutger McGroarty for our bold predictions. Mine is 20-plus goals despite starting the first dozen games in the NHL, at least the first dozen at the NHL level. He will start in the American Hockey League. You have him up in the Calder race and starting or playing the majority of the season with Sidney Crosby. So high expectations for the 20-year-old. And again, they're justified. This guy is a top 30 prospect in the National Hockey League. He's ready to go. He has the body to withstand the NHL game. Now, whether or not he can withstand the length of an NHL season, that remains to be seen. But if there ever was a season to jump into the NHL, this is it, because you have both the All-Star break and the Four Nations face-off this year. So you have plenty of time. Or no, did they cancel the I always forget.
It's just Four Nations this year, and then it's Olympics and All-Star game next year.
Horrible decision making by the NHL on their part on that one. But this year, Four Nations face off. Let's just say, even though Mike Sullivan's the head coach, Rutger McGroarty's not making Team USA this season, so he'll have that time off.
Yeah, for sure.